5 rifles, real retail numbers. Not opinions, not hype, not what looked cool on Instagram. This is what American hunters actually bought in 2025. And I'm telling you right now, the rifle sitting at number 1 is going to make some people uncomfortable. Because it's not the loudest brand, it's not the trendiest build, and it's definitely not some featherweight polymer wonder rifle with a 10-page feature list. This list is straight from the gun counter. Real money, real receipts, real choices made by hunters who had to live with that rifle in real country. When a guy lays cash down and says, "That one," that's not a comment section, that's a vote. So today we're breaking down all 5 rifles, specs, why they're selling, what they genuinely do well, and where they fall short when the hunt gets hard. And when we get to number 1, you're going to understand exactly what American hunters value most when it's their tag on the line. Stay with me. All right, kicking off at number 5. And honestly, this one makes perfect sense the second you understand the backcountry crowd. The Savage 110 Ultralite weighs 5.85 pounds. That's it. Here's a quick real-world comparison. A loaded 32-ounce Nalgene can weigh more than the difference between this rifle and a lot of its competition. And if you've ever climbed hard public land, Colorado elk country, Montana mule deer, you already know that weight savings is not comfort. It's capacity to survive. Every ounce you don't burn on the rifle is an ounce you can spend on water, food, a med kit, or the kind of gear that keeps you alive when things go sideways. The heart of this build is a proof research carbon fiber wrapped barrel. Carbon fiber wrapped over a steel liner gives you the rigidity of a heavier contour. That means more consistent harmonics and tighter groups without paying the penalty in steel weight. It also dumps heat faster than a solid steel tube. And that matters when you need a follow-up shot instead of a long cooldown. Most of the popular chamberings lean hard toward 270 Winchester and 6.5 Creedmoor. Both are efficient enough that a 400-yard shot in calm conditions is not a crazy ask. The Accu-Trigger is user-adjustable from 1.5 to 4 pounds, and you can do it with basic hand tools. At the lighter settings, it breaks clean. No mush, no gritty drag. And when your heart rate is already spiked from the climb, that clean break matters. The bolt body is spiral fluted. That trims a little rotational mass, and it helps move grit and debris through the flutes instead of binding up. Now here's what buyers need to know before they swipe the card. The polymer stock will flex if you really load into a bipod. You'll notice it. And out of the box, a fresh factory action can feel a little rough on the cycle. The good news is it tends to smooth out after a few hundred rounds. Neither of those is a deal breaker for what this rifle is meant to be. This is a stripped-down mountain tool, not a bench rest showpiece. What it does right, that ghost-like carry weight, real sub-MOA mechanical accuracy, a shooter-adjustable trigger, and a proof research barrel at a price that doesn't require a payment plan. What it doesn't. The bolt cycle is not going to feel like a CZ 550. The stock can feel hollow. And if you step into Magnum calibers, you're down to a 2-round capacity. Chambering options inside the Ultralite-specific lineup are also limited. But if your main requirement is a rifle that basically disappears on a multi-day pack, this one earns a spot. Number 4, Tikka T3X Lite. The Tikka T3X Lite has been selling steadily all year, and the reason is simple. It nails a performance-to-weight balance that most factory rifles can't touch. It weighs 6.5 pounds. That's what I call the practical middle. Light enough for all-day carry, heavy enough that you're not fighting the rifle every time you press the trigger. The cold hammer forged barrel is the real headline. Cold hammer forging compresses and aligns the steel grain structure around the bore. What you get from that is consistency, shot to shot, string to string, and on paper that shows up as group size. Half-inch at 100 yards with quality ammo is a realistic expectation here, not marketing fluff. The chambering selection is wide, from 223 Remington up through 300 Winchester Magnum. Same barrel quality across the board. The bolt throw is 70 degrees, and that matters in the real world. Your hand clears the scope objective during the cycle, even with thick gloves, and your follow-up speed is noticeably faster than a standard 90-degree lift. The synthetic stock has an asymmetrical grip texture that actually locks your hand in. And Tikka even put a foam insert in the rear of the stock to kill that hollow plastic drum sound. Small detail, but it makes the rifle feel more solid than the scale suggests. The trigger adjusts from 2 to 4 pounds, and it honestly outperforms a lot of drop-in aftermarket triggers that cost twice as much. Now, the honest downsides, the factory rubber butt pad is stiff, and if you're running heavy magnums, your shoulder's going to know it by the end of a range day. It ships with one front sling swivel, so if you want to run a sling and a bipod at the same time, you're making an aftermarket stop. Those proprietary polymer magazines have a reputation for cracking at the feed lips after hard field use. And that slim barrel contour will start to string shots if you hammer it in a rapid sequence. It heat soaks quicker than a heavier profile, but if you want top-tier barrel quality in a hunt-ready package without custom rifle money, the T3X Lite is a legitimate answer. The Ruger American landing at number 3 tells you something important about the 2025 hunting market. Hunters are smart enough now to separate price from performance. This rifle weighs 6.2 pounds, and it's under $500 at most shops. That price sounds like compromise, but the performance says otherwise. Ruger's free-floated barrel, meaning the barrel doesn't touch the stock anywhere forward of the receiver, regularly prints 1-inch 3-shot groups. The bolt uses a 3-lug system with a 70-degree lift. Same scope clearance advantage you get on the Tikka. The Tang safety placement is genuinely ambidextrous, and it's fast to click off as the rifle comes up. The detail that separates this from a lot of budget rifles is the power bedding system. Ruger molded stainless steel V-blocks directly into the polymer stock, so the receiver is sitting in steel, not just resting inside molded plastic. That's the kind of bedding concept you usually see in mid-tier and higher-tier rifles. And it's a big reason this gun holds zero after the kind of abuse that would have other cheap rifles drifting and heading back to the gunsmith. The rotary magazine holds 4 rounds flush, nothing hanging down to snag on brush or straps. And factory threads are now standard on most current production models, so your muzzle device or suppressor mount can go on day one. Cerakote on the metal part shrugs off blood, rain, and years of bouncing around in a truck bed. Now the real issues, the forend isn't very stiff, and if you load a bipod hard, you can push it into barrel contact. That ruins the free float advantage. The bolt can sound loud when you run it dry. That usually goes away once it's properly lubed. No iron sights from the factory, and it's a little bulkier than the dedicated mountain rifles above it on this list. But the bottom line is simple. Nothing else gives you this much mechanical performance per dollar. If money is tight and you still need a serious hunting rifle, this is the answer. The Browning X-Bolt Speed at number 2 is built for a certain kind of hunter, and if you're that guy or that gal, it's hard to argue against it. At 6.5 pounds with a 22-inch fluted sporter barrel, this thing is set up for fast shooting, follow-up shots, moving targets, close to mid-range hunting setups where speed matters. The 7mm PRC and 300 Winchester Magnum dominate the chamberings in this model. Both deliver serious terminal performance downrange. Browning's 60-degree bolt unlock is legitimately the quickest throw in this category. Your hand barely lifts, the action cycles, and you're right back on target. The DLX trigger pack has zero mechanical creep, and it adjusts from 3 to 5 pounds, with a clean break across the range. The composite stock wears Browning's OVIX camo pattern, and it's finished with a rubberized, soft-touch coating. That coating helps absorb sound when you brush branches. A lot of rifles don't pay attention to that, but on a stock, it actually matters. The Inflex recoil pad is angled to pull the comb away from your cheekbone under recoil, so on Magnums, you get noticeably less face slap. A radial muzzle brake comes standard. That cuts felt recoil a lot and helps you spot your own impacts downrange. Full Cerakote coverage on the barreled action and bolt. Rotary polymer magazine with center axis feeding for smooth chambering. Now what to watch for. Browning uses a non-standard thread pitch on certain barrel profiles. That can create suppressor adapter headaches. Length of pull is fixed, so there's no easy adjustment for different shooter sizes. The price matches the feature list. You are paying a premium compared to the rifles below it here. And even with that recoil pad and brake, running magnum loads through a light rifle still adds up over a long day on the range. But if you want a fast, aggressive rifle, that comes ready to mount a suppressor and looks like it costs twice what it does. This is your rifle. Number 1. Winchester Model 70 Extreme Weather SS. Here's what nobody expected when the 2025 retail data came in. The best-selling hunting rifle in America is a design that traces back to 1936. The Winchester Model 70 Extreme Weather SS outsold everything else on this list. And once you understand the why, it stops being surprising. We are drowning in push-feed bolt actions right now. Push-feed is cheaper to make, usually lighter, and for the vast majority of hunting situations, it works just fine. But there's one scenario where push-feed adds a real variable. When the cartridge strips out of the magazine, the bolt face doesn't take full, positive control until that round is already seated in the chamber. In mud, in cold, in weird body positions on steep terrain, that's where problems show up. The Winchester Model 70 uses a Mauser-style controlled round feed extractor. The instant a cartridge pops free from the magazine, a big steel claw grabs the case rim immediately, and it holds that rim through the entire chambering cycle. You can run this bolt upside down, sideways, at an angle, in ugly field conditions. It feeds and extracts without drama. For hunters chasing bear, elk, or moose in serious country, that reliability is not a preference. It's a requirement. The specs match that durability-first mindset. It weighs 7.5 pounds, a 24-inch fluted barrel. The 3-position wing safety on the bolt shroud lets you lock the firing pin while still opening the bolt to unload a live round. That's critical when you're crossing obstacles. The MOA trigger breaks at exactly 3.5 pounds. No slack. The barreled action sits in a Bell & Carlson composite stock with a full-length aircraft-grade aluminum bedding block running the entire action channel. So your zero stays put. The Permacoat matte finish kills glare and blocks moisture. And it's chambered primarily in 30-06 Springfield and 300 Winchester Magnum, with a sub-MOA accuracy guarantee from Winchester. Now real-world negatives. At 7.5 pounds, it's the heaviest rifle on this list by a meaningful margin. It can be picky about bullet weights. You'll need to test multiple loads to see what your specific barrel likes. The hinge floor plate is slower to reload under pressure than a detachable box magazine, and stainless steel machined to these tolerances costs money. This is the most expensive factory hunting rifle on the list. But here's what the sales numbers are telling us. American hunters in 2025 picked reliability, longevity, and field-proven design over feature lists and weight savings. The Model 70 Extreme Weather SS runs when conditions are at their worst. It'll outlast the hunter who buys it, and it prints inside MOA from the factory. That's why it's number 1. So that's what the real 2025 retail numbers look like. 5 bolt-action hunting rifles, from a 5.85-pound carbon fiber mountain specialist all the way to a 7.5-pound controlled feed tank. Every one of them earned its place for a real reason, tied to real hunting conditions. Now I want to hear from you. Drop this in the comments. What does your hunting terrain actually look like? Are you grinding vertical miles in the backcountry, where weight is everything? Or are you hunting places where the weather turns nasty, and you need a rifle that refuses to quit? Tell me your situation. I read every comment, and it honestly shapes what we cover next. If this breakdown helped you out, hit like and subscribe. We've got an in-depth comparison on suppressor-ready hunting setups coming up that ties directly into what we talked about today with the X-Bolt and the American rifle. You do not want to miss that one. Stay safe out there.